This is a video presentation of the e-publishing or open access publishing workshop that I did for the Center for Teaching and Learning on September 20th, 2016. So let's just dive right in. One thing that we do know is that textbook availability directly impacts retention. So obviously this is an issue that our campus and that faculty and administrators have been concerned about because they are currently working on this. But other universities have kind of hit the ground running in terms of how they're addressing the issue of creating materials and creating content or original content that becomes free for students. And so I've included a link to a couple of articles. One is from 2011, and it talks about the fact that 7 out of 10 students will choose not to buy the textbook because of the cost. And then fast forward to an article that was published this year that talks about universities and how they're being innovative and creating open access textbooks. So we'll talk a little bit about some e-publishing as well as open access, which open access seems to be the thing that a lot of universities are experimenting with and embracing. So why e-textbooks? Well, first and foremost, we know that there's a cost issue with e-textbooks. They are not expensive to produce depending on what service you use. I've created e-textbooks using createspace.com, which is an Amazon property. Publishing companies do drive up the cost for books, and sometimes they engage in bad practices that include add-ons, certificate programs, and then some higher ed administrative partnerships. So we have to be cautious of those things as well. And then there's the issue of the bookstores reaping the benefit from the textbooks that they sell, because there is a markup, and at the low end it's 30%, and there's no regulation in terms of that markup. But I think that sometimes your bookstore has to work collaboratively so that students aren't being grossly affected by high textbook prices. Students on an average pay between $1,000 and $2,000 on educational materials. So if you add that up over the lifespan of a college student, it can be very costly. Another reason why you may want to engage in e-publishing is the content. You can be a content creator. A lot of faculty members have tons of notes and handouts that they put together for just one semester that can be used over and over again, or that can be modified. You can also have a communal model of authorship where you're working not just with faculty members on your campus, but faculty members across the discipline at various universities to put together content and put together material that can be used to create an e-textbook, and that can be used to do some open access publishing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. There's also the ability to connect with readers. Even though some students do want to have hard copies, if the hard copies are more readily available and more affordable, they're more likely to get the textbooks they need to be successful in class. And another thing that we need to take into consideration is that we're teaching students who have grown up with a piece of technology in their hands. So whether they use it to write and communicate socially or to watch videos, we need to be able to incorporate some of those practices into how we teach and educate. And by creating the ebook or open access publishing, using that, we're connecting with our audience, which are our students. And then it allows for continued innovation. We can, in a web text environment, update the content. We can do this and not have to go through the rigors of dealing with a publisher or an editorial board. So those are some of the bonuses of e-textbooks and e-publishing. So one of the key features of open source or open access publishing is the open licensing part, and that enables two key things. Number one, open textbooks can be legally shared and copied and distributed. So students can have access to the materials in a wide range of print and digital formats at little or no cost. And they don't have a fear of an expiration date or not being able to have access to the information. And they can be legally adopted by instructors, which makes it possible to add new material, to change terminology, to remove things that you don't think are going to fit into your class. And you can create a textbook that has a perfect fit for what it is that you're teaching. There's also online e-publishing software or cloud publishing sites that you can use. Again, I've used CreateSpace to create a handbook and to create a workbook for our senior capstone class, and to create content for my Women, Feminism, and the Media course. And then there are some subscription-based or cloud-based providers. I've also used Lucid Press. It's a subscription-based provider, but it allows you to create a magazine format document that you can generate a PDF from, or you can generate a link from. So a little bit more about open source publishing, or open textbooks, or open access books. Those are some of the names or some of the terms that are used to refer to this type of publishing. And so in a CNN article, and the link is below, some of the highlights of that story focus on the fact that even post-secondary schools are offering some open source textbooks to cut costs. The downside is that everyone may not have access to a laptop, desktop, tablet at home, so you still have to make provisions for those students at the secondary and the college level who don't have that access. There is going to be a continued rise in textbook cost, and these costs do deter students from purchasing course materials. And another argument is the fact that publishers say they offer us this unparalleled academic and editorial oversight. Well, last time I checked, I'm on a campus with a lot of brilliant people who have published, who have written book chapters, who are in high-impact journals. So we also have that academic and editorial oversight, or that ability in terms of our own content and creating this content to be used in our classrooms. The average savings to our students could amount to $10,000 over a college career, a 4 or 5 year college career for a student. So let's take a glance at open access publishing and how it's done.
With so many new tools and ways to use technology, open educational resources, or OER, have become an important supply from which to draw when developing instructional content. OER are educational materials produced by one party that are licensed to be shared freely and at no cost by others. Let's examine the process of finding and using OER, and how to handle the complications that can arise when combining materials with different licenses. There are many open licenses, but Creative Commons licenses are the ones we will be working with here. So how do you go about finding and using OER? Let's watch Michelle as she develops a chapter for an open textbook on metabolism. Michelle has been teaching metabolism for years, so she has already developed the text of the chapter from her notes. But she needs some illustrations, specifically of the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. She'd also like to find some exercises to accompany the text. There are many places to find OER, such as Flickr CC, OER Commons, Connections, Internet Archive, or Open Michigan. Michelle goes to Flickr CC at flickr.com/Creative Commons. That brings her to a collection of all the Flickr images that have Creative Commons licenses. She quickly finds the images she's looking for. Both with CC BY licenses. For exercises, she logs into the Orange Grove, Florida's digital repository where a wide range of OER are available. Here she searches for electron transport chain and turns up some exercise test questions also licensed CC BY. Because there are no restrictions on these images or exercises, Michelle is free to modify them to suit her needs. She resizes and crops the images and writes captions for them. Then for each image, she provides the specific Creative Commons license with a link back to its license deed. Next, she writes the creator's name, linking back to the Flickr site where she found the image. She also adds some references to the images in her text. She then adds the exercises at the end, removes two that do not belong in her chapter, provides attribution to the creator, and links back to the resource. Then she uses the Accessibility Checker utility in Microsoft Word, which spots content that may pose challenges for persons with disabilities. When Michelle saves her book, she notices the metadata text fields at the bottom of the Save As window. Her name is already listed as author. She could add more names if she had co-authors. She enters the title and subject, then several tags that describe the content of her work. When Michelle clicks Save, the metadata is embedded in the document. Finally, she adds a Creative Commons license. Because the other content she is using has CC BY licenses, the least restrictive license available, she is free to choose the license she wants. She goes to the Creative Commons page to choose a license. She answers a few questions and her license is selected automatically. She then fills in some information to help others provide proper attribution for her work, and the chooser automatically generates text and code for her document. She copies the text and pastes it onto the first page of her chapter. A job well done, Michelle.
Thanks.
Michelle used the BY license, which made licensing her new work easy. But not all licenses play well with others. Let's consider some situations where the licenses being combined are more restrictive. Suppose you are developing a work and you want to use some other CC licensed works within yours. If you adapt or derive works offered under Creative Commons licenses, you must not only follow the terms of the licenses involved, but also choose a license for your work that is compatible with the licenses of the works you are using. If a license of a work you want to use is not compatible with yours or another work you plan to use, search for a comparable work with a compatible license, or try to contact the rights holder and request permission to use the work under your license.
New email.
So which licenses are compatible and which are not? The BY license is compatible with any other Creative Commons license, so you can use it with attribution, of course, any way you like. Sometimes the BY license has the No Derivatives or ND provision. The ND provision prohibits the works from being adapted, revised, or combined at all. With a Share Alike or SA provision, your new work must have an identical license as the source content. In other words, this license lets others remix, tweak, and build upon a work, as long as they credit the creator and license their derivatives under identical terms. Finally, the Non-Commercial or NC provision makes the license compatible with any of the three licenses with an NC component: BY NC itself, BY NC SA, or even BY NC ND. When it comes down to it, some combinations of licenses just aren't compatible, and some combinations, like Andrea's, give several options. Fortunately, the number of resources with open licenses is huge, and it's growing every day. So don't give up if the work you want to use has an incompatible license. There's plenty, and that's it. It's pretty easy when you get the hang of it. Now you'll be able to produce properly licensed open educational resources that could benefit many people. So good luck!